Prabhu,
Yes?
excuse me, there's bell sound. Cannot hear you.
Okay.
Is it yours or yes?
Yeah. Okay, just hold on.
Okay.
Press that. All that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam, sukha mukhad amrita drava samyutam, pibata bhagavatam rasam alayam, muhuraho rasika, bhuvi bhavakaha. O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desired tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadev Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Let me therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto the Lord, who has become the son of Vasudev, the pleasure of Devaki, the boy of Nanda, and the other cowherd men of Vrindavan, and the enlivener of the cows and the senses. Nama Pankajanabhaya, Nama Pankajamalini, Nama Pankajanetraya, Namaste Pankajangre. My respectful obeisances are unto you, O Lord, whose abdomen is marked with a depression like a lotus flower, who are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers, whose glance is as cool as the lotus, and whose feet are engraved with lotuses. So Hare Krishna. So in this chapter 9, the passing away of Bhīṣmadeva in the presence of Lord Krishna. So the last time, 2 weeks ago, we discussed this chapter, but and there are some points that we covered, but I feel that I did not really cover certain aspects deeply as how I would want to. Didn't really do justice, I felt. So I thought I will go through this topic again, but I will skip the parts which I've already covered. I will just go through quickly on those parts which I've discussed the last time. I hope that is fine. So we plan to do this in 2 parts. The first part will be the first part of chapter 9, and then the next class we can do the second part of chapter 9, the end of the topic. So please feel free to stop and clarify anything if you are not clear, or if you have any extra points that you'd like to add which I have missed. You're always welcome to do that. So I hope we can treat this like a Bhagavatam study, so where we try to scrutinize the verses carefully instead of just rushing over the entire chapter, and we don't really do justice to the topics. So anyway, so it starts with this chapter 9.1. As we know, all the Pandavas, they left for the battlefield of Kurukshetra because they wanted to see Bhīṣmadeva, pay their respects unto Bhīṣmadeva. So how this came about, we have already covered this in the last class. Because Yudhishthira Maharaj was extremely sad. He was extremely disturbed with all the so much of death. The Mahabharata war killed 160 million people in the battle. 600 million, I think. 600 million people died in the battlefield. And he was very disturbed. And although Lord Krishna himself was there and all the sages were there, but they could not pacify Yudhishthira Maharaj. And you might be surprised why this is so, but we discussed this the last time in detail, so I will not go through this again. So Lord Krishna, this is his pastime. He wants to actually use this opportunity to teach several lessons. So one of those lessons is he wanted to show the glories of Bhīṣmadeva. So that is what we are going to continue. So as we know, we discussed this part already. At that time, all his brothers followed him on beautiful chariots drawn by first-class horses, decorated with gold ornaments. So they went to meet him with great pomp, in great splendor, in royal paraphernalia. And together with them were all the sages, Vyasadeva, Daumya, their own Pandava priests, and so forth. And even Lord Krishna himself personally followed in this procession. So thus King Yudhishthira looked very aristocratic and very resplendent. So the whole purpose was because Krishna wanted to please Bhīṣmadeva, because he knew deep inside Bhīṣmadev's heart. This is the great mystery of Bhīṣmadeva. Why is he known as Mahajan? So in this chapter, we will learn little by little why he is actually a great Mahajan. No one knew why he's a Mahajan, and yet he fought against the Pandavas and against Krishna, apparently, in the battlefield. So Krishna knew Bhīṣmadev's heart. And he knew that Bhīṣmadeva always wanted the Pandavas to be victorious, always wanted the Pandavas to be the rightful kings. And when finally, after seeing all the Pandavas go through so much of difficulties, to finally see the Pandavas enthroned so nicely, so resplendently like this, he knew how much pleasure this would bring to Bhīṣmadeva. So that is why he arranged for this. So seeing Bhishma lying on the ground like a demigod fallen from the sky, the Pandava king Yudhishthira, along with his younger brothers and Lord Krishna, bowed down before him. So this is another example. So you can see here, is someone talking?
Prabhu, I think it's Joshna Mataji. She forgot to mute herself because she's offering some food just now. I think that was a bell that we heard.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Are you able to mute everyone, Prabhu?
Yeah, I can.
All are muted.
I can.
Okay.
Okay, fine. Now, so you can see here, Lord Krishna bowed down before Bhīṣmadeva. So here is another example of the Supreme Lord following etiquette. So we can see throughout Bhagavatam that the Supreme Lord and his pure devotees are always following the etiquette. Even though one may argue, the Supreme Lord is the Supreme Lord. Why does he have to follow the common etiquette of the people? Right? And we can also argue the Pandavas are such great devotees. They are eternally liberated, Nitya Siddhas. So why do they have to observe the common etiquette of the common masses? So this is the way the Lord teaches us by example, that even great personalities, even though they are far beyond the bounds of these etiquettes, they still do follow them for the purpose of teaching the other populace. And also this is also done for the pleasure of the Lord, because the Lord, when one follows etiquette, it actually pleases the Lord. As Sanatan Goswami says, the etiquette, Vaishnava etiquette, is the ornament of a Vaishnava. So an ornament is to make yourself attractive to the Lord's eyes, right? So therefore, these are the actual ornaments of the devotees. So next verse, just to see the chief of the descendants of King Bharata, all the great souls in the universe, namely Brahma Rishis, Deva Rishis, Raja Rishis, and all those in the mode of goodness. So we discussed this in detail the last time, so I will not go through this. So all of them came and assembled to witness this wonderful pastime of Bhīṣmadeva giving his final discourse. So if you see the Bhagavatam, this part of the chapter is actually discussing a part of the Mahabharata. Now the Mahabharata has 18 chapters. As you know, it's the longest scripture in the world, the longest treatise, in fact, the longest written anything in the world. It's 100,000 verses. It's 100,000 verses, and it's divided into 18 chapters, or parvas, they call it. So there's Adi Parva, and then there is the Vana Parva, Sabha Parva, and then so forth, Bhishma Parva, Drona Parva, and all that. And this part where the Pandavas all come together and visit Bhīṣmadeva, this is called the Shanti Parva. So if you read Mahabharata, the Shanti Parva will describe this entire chapter. Actually, this chapter 9 has two parvas coinciding. I will come to the reason for that later. Right. So Bhīṣmadeva was the best among the 8 Vasus, received and welcomed. So who are the Vasus? We discussed this the last class. Received and welcomed all the great and powerful rishis who were assembled there. For he knew perfectly all the religious principles according to time and place. So we talked about how Bhīṣmadeva received guests. So again, this is another part of Vaishnava etiquette, the importance of receiving guests. So we talked about this also in the last class, so I will not discuss this again today. I'll skip that. So Lord Sri Krishna, Jagat Ishwaram, He is the Lord of the universe. He is situated in everyone's heart. Hridi Stam. Stam means situated. Hridi is heart. Yet He manifests His transcendental form, His Vigraha, by His internal potency, Maya. So what Maya does He use? He uses the Yoga Maya, which is especially meant for His devotees. Right? This is not Mahamaya, which makes people forget the Supreme Lord's personality. So this very Lord was sitting before Bhīṣmadeva, and since Bhīṣmadeva knew of his glories, he worshipped him duly. The sons of Maharaj Pandu were sitting silently nearby, overtaken with affection for their dying grandfather. So this also we covered the last time, right? How all the Pandavas came, assembled in front of Bhīṣmadeva. Seeing this, Bhīṣmadeva congratulated them with feeling. He was so happy, he was so overwhelmed and overcome with affection to see them prosperous for once. In all his life, he has seen them under tribulations and under misery. He saw how Pandu died and how these 5 children were left without father, and how Kunti Devi single-handedly had to raise them all alone in the setting of a royal kingdom ruled by the wicked Duryodhana, and how they went through so many different tribulations. And despite him trying to intervene in so many ways to protect them, to save them, to teach them, and to guide them, still he had to see the Pandavas suffer, and also to see Kunti Devi suffer, apparently suffer. So finally, they were victorious. Bhīṣmadeva, his eyes were full of tears of ecstasy, and he was overwhelmed with love and affection. And he immediately said, Aho kashtam, aho nyayam. So much of difficulties, kashtam, so much of anyayam, injustices that you had gone through. Dharmanandanaha. And you had to go through this. You and all of you, as well as Dharmanandanaha, the son of Dharma himself. Actually, that is not possible. How can the son of Dharma? So this also we discussed in the last class. Jivitum narhata klishtam. Klishtam means this kind of miseries. Narhata, you cannot live. Jivitam, you would have given up your body. You would have given up your soul, your life. You were undergoing such difficulties that it's not possible for one to still be alive under those kind of difficulties. Bhīṣmadeva was saying. So, we can like that. But yet, nevertheless, you were always, despite this kind of such difficulties which were so terrible, you were always perfectly protected in the shelter, ashraya. So you can see ashraya, under the shelter of whom? Under the shelter of Vipra, Brahmanas, under the shelter of Dharma, of religion, of righteousness, and under the shelter of Achyuta. So Vipra, Dharma, Achyuta. Achyuta is Kṛṣṇa, the Supreme Lord himself. So you are under their protection. So therefore, none of these things can actually disturb you. But yet you underwent so much of miseries. Despite you being truthful, despite you being fully under the Brahmanas, how can this be? Right? And he was further continuing. He's saying, not only you, my daughter-in-law, Kunti Devi, right? She went through Bahun Klesham. Bahun means so much, great. Kleshan. Kleshan means difficulties, miseries. She suffered greatly, right? What are the sufferings of Kunti Devi? So Bhīṣmadeva reminds them at the death of Pandu. Pandu died young. Kunti Devi had to undergo to survive separately without the presence of a beloved husband. Widowhood. she had to bring up 5 young children, as I mentioned already. And due to the actions of her children, as they were growing up, you remember how Duryodhana was envious of them. So due to the actions of her children, she also suffered, because these actions of her children invited the envy and the malice of the Kauravas. And due to seeing all this, if you have a child and the child is being bullied in school, or the child is suffering, you can imagine you are not peaceful, right? You cannot say I, your child, your suffering is not my suffering. No, for the parents, the suffering of the child is extremely painful. So you can imagine the suffering of Kunti Devi. So she had to go through all of these. So Bhīṣmadeva says, but still, it's not possible a person who is protected by Brahmanas, protected by religion, who was so righteous and protected by the Supreme Lord himself, Kṛṣṇa, it's not possible for such people to actually suffer. It's not possible at all. So therefore, how is he suffering? So Bhīṣmadeva gives an analysis. He says, this is all due to Sarvam Kala Kritam. It's all due to inconceivable time, Kala. What does that mean? Inconceivable time means, it means that this is simply by the will of Kṛṣṇa. It's by the desire of Kṛṣṇa. It was Kṛṣṇa's desire that all this happened. Now, just like the clouds are carried by the wind, so poetically Bhīṣmadeva is saying. So that is very difficult for us to understand. We may ask, isn't God supposed to be all good? So if he is all good, why is he doing this to his devotees? So that's a very difficult thought. But Kṛṣṇa doesn't do this to his devotees unless they are very special devotees. So anyway, we will come to that. So Bhīṣmadeva is saying, otherwise, how can there be reverses in the presence? Again, he is reiterating, not only they were protected by the Brahmanas, religion, and Kṛṣṇa. Kunti Devi was in the presence of who? In the presence of Dharma Suto Raja, the son of Dharmaraj, Yudhishthira Maharaj. He was in the presence of Vrikodara, the performer of Herculean tasks. If you remember Bhagavad Gita, Vrikodara, that's Bhima. Gada Panir, that means the wielder of the Gada. And he performs Herculean tasks. So much of might and strength. So with these personalities, and she was also in the presence of, protected by Krishno Astri Gandhivam Chapam. Arjuna is also sometimes called Kṛṣṇa, just like sometimes Draupadi is also called Kṛṣṇa sometimes because of a dark complexion. So here Krishna here refers to Arjuna. Astri, the weapon wielder, a weapon of what? Gandhivam. Gandhivam is a famous bow. Chapam means bow. So he's the wielder of the famous bow Gandhivam. And here the word Krishna is specifically used to show that Arjuna is almost like Kṛṣṇa, that kind of strength and power he had. Kṛṣṇa and Arjuna are the eternal rishis, right? Nara Narayana. In the beginning, we said the Bhagavatam, right? Nara Narayana rishis. So that is Kṛṣṇa and Arjuna, again come and taken in this particular pastime. So under these people's influence and protection, right? And Suhurt Kṛṣṇa, under Kṛṣṇa himself. And Kṛṣṇa here is called Suhurt. Suhurt means the well-wisher. See, we say we want the Guru Parva. We want Venus Parva, right? We don't want Sunny Parva. But this is Kṛṣṇa Parva. So in the eyes of the Supreme Lord and Kṛṣṇa himself, who is so benevolently inclined to these devotees, to these Pandavas, yet they had these reverses. So that's very interesting. So what does that mean? It's not only that example. There are many other examples. If you can remember the scriptures, you will find so many examples of situations where devotees had to undergo so much of tribulations, right? So, for example, anyway, before we come to the example, I will just mention the next verse. Tasmat, however, tasmat means however, idam daiva tantram. What does that mean? Tasmat idam daiva tantram means, that means this is all due to the will of the providence, daiva tantram. So therefore, O best amongst the descendant of Bharata, I maintain, my conclusion is that all this is within the plan of the Lord, Daiva Tantram, right? And these are the examples. So what are the examples? If you remember Narada Muni himself, we discussed this in chapter 5, 6 and 7, how Narada Muni was cursed twice and then he took birth as the son of a maid servant. And you know, we can try to imagine, have we ever suffered like how Narada Muni has suffered? Narada Muni lost his only parent, which was his mother, at a very young age, at the age of 5. So he became an orphan at the age of 5. No relatives, no money, nothing. Completely dependent on the 4 directions. So that was Narada Muni's predicament. So we were not in that predicament. So another example, Prabhupada himself, right? You can imagine, remember Prabhupada's tribulations, how difficult he had a time when he had to sell Back to Godhead magazines. He was in fact rammed by a bull, gored by a bull. A bull was running and it gored him while he was trying to distribute Back to Godhead, and he was knocked down. And then, you know, he printed them, he brought them, he went alone, traveled, and then all the way to USA as well. The tribulations that he had to face and all the wonderful stories about all the different hippies and their behavior that Prabhupada had to tolerate. We can also further, not only the devotees, Kṛṣṇa also shows that he himself goes through tribulations. Examples, like you remember this pastime? This is Ashokavan, Sita Devi, how Sita Devi was captured by Ravana. Sita Devi was crying in tears, right? And this is Mother Lakshmi herself. And you can see how Lord Ram, when he lost Sita Devi, when he knew that Sita Devi was kidnapped, how he was lamenting, he was crying to the 10 directions. Oh, have you seen Sita? Oh, have you seen Sita? Then he was crying to the animals. Oh dear, have you seen Sita? Oh bird, have you seen Sita? So in this way, he was lamenting and crying, right? So we can see what is happening here. And this is another example. If you can remember, this is the pastime. This deity. This deity is in Navadvip, right? This is the Dhameshwar deity. The Dhameshwar deity was given to Vishnupriya. So Vishnupriya is the consort of Mahaprabhu. And we all know the very sweet and painful pastime of how Mahaprabhu took sannyas and Vishnupriya was only 16 years old. And Mahaprabhu, it was a very sweet discussion they had. You can read about that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And how Vishnupriya kept her life, although her life was leaving, and never again will she ever lay eyes upon Mahaprabhu, and therefore Mahaprabhu gave this deity. So she was still keeping her life air. And you know, 16 years old, she lost her husband, and she lived up to 96 years old. So many years, almost 80 years, she lived in separation of Mahaprabhu. So this is another example of such bereavement. So how do we understand all these things? Why do the devotees and even the Lord himself sometimes show these examples? So Srila Prabhupada, if you read the purport, 1916, Bhīṣmadeva was a great devotee of the Lord, but he chose to fight against the Pandavas by the will of the Lord. Another example here, right? Bhīṣmadeva, so here we can understand why Bhīṣmadeva actually fought against the Pandavas. So he was made to do so by the will of the Lord. Because the Lord wanted to show that a fighter like Bhīṣma cannot win on the wrong side. So Bhīṣmadeva was always a devotee of the Supreme Lord. He was always on the side of the Pandavas, and he was always protecting the Pandavas. But during the vicious assembly, the Asat Sabha, at that time, by the will of the Lord, Bhīṣmadeva was put into illusion. Just like how Yudhishthira was put into illusion, just like how Arjuna was also put into illusion in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So, he does this for various reasons. So in this aspect, he wanted to show, number one, he wanted to, later we will talk about the very important point about Bhīṣma that Kṛṣṇa wanted to show. But the external reason why he wanted to show this was, he wanted to show at that time, Bhīṣmadeva was the most powerful warrior on existence. He learned his arts directly from Parashuram himself. And even at one point, he defeated Parashuram. And Bhīṣmadeva, actually, he cannot die. He only dies if he wants to die. If he decides, okay, now I want to die. And he was given the benediction by Parashuram that no one can defeat you. You are undefeatable unless you want to be defeated. So only when Bhīṣma allows himself to be defeated, he can be defeated, right? And that is how Bhīṣma was killed. Bhīṣma, when he was faced with Shikandi, Shikandi was a woman in her previous life. So Bhīṣmadeva knew that, and he said, no, I will not fight a woman. This is not a Kshatriya way. Therefore, I will be allowed to be defeated. So that's how, keeping Shikandi in front, not Shikandi, what's that her name? Anyway, I forgot her name. I think it's Shikandi. So keeping Shikandi in front, Arjuna shot arrows. And in this way, Bhīṣmadeva allowed himself to be defeated. But still, Kṛṣṇa wanted to show that even when you have such a supreme fighter, such a personality in your side, that personality, if he is in the wrong side, it cannot overcome Dharma. Dharma is always supreme. It cannot be defeated by no matter how great a might you are. So, this is how Kunti Devi also was thinking. When Kunti Devi wanted to have children, she thought, let me have Dharma himself as my son, so that he can be a king like no one else. Like he can be such a wonderful, powerful king, because Dharma is supreme. So she invoked Dharmaraj and she had Yudhishthira Maharaj. Then she thought, but Dharma sometimes needs to be upheld very strongly. If there is no one to uphold Dharma strongly, how can Dharma prevail? So therefore she prayed to Vayu and prayed for strength. Give me a son who is strength personified. And then she had Bhima. So then she prayed, but strength alone is not enough. What if someone were to use weapons? What if they were to attack me in warfare? So then she prayed to Lord Indra, oh Lord Indra, give me a son who is undefeated in warfare. And therefore she had Arjuna. So with these three kinds of personalities, right? But still, Kṛṣṇa is all intelligent. He can still put them in misery. He can still put them in difficulties if he wants to. So we should not, the idea is we should not be putting our faith in Dharma, in Aishwarya, in our good birth, in our Janma Aishwarya. Remember that verse we discussed the last time? We should not put our faith in good birth, in material opulence, in our intelligence, in our knowledge and all that. Even we should not put our faith in Dharma itself. Even though Dharma is beyond Artha Kama, it is Dharma. It is higher than these things. But even Dharma itself is only mode of goodness. It is not Visuddha Sattva. It is not transcendental. So Kṛṣṇa is indirectly showing, even though Kunti Devi had at that time put her faith in these things, Kṛṣṇa is trying to show that even still, it can be bewildered. But how can it be bewildered? It cannot be bewildered by anyone else. It can only be bewildered by the Supreme Lord Himself. And when that happens, how do we understand it? So this is what we are trying to understand from this pastime here. So Srila Prabhupada further says in 917. So this is the point here. This is the important point. This is how we try to understand these kind of pastimes. Prabhupada says, a housewife teaches the daughter-in-law by teaching the daughter. So this is the etiquette in those days. In those days, a daughter-in-law is not tormented by the mother-in-law. Instead, they are received very nicely. But sometimes the daughter-in-law makes mistakes in serving the husband or in serving the mother-in-law or serving the family. So the daughter-in-law, the mother-in-law doesn't want to hurt the feelings of the daughter-in-law directly. So therefore, she will instruct the daughter. Even though the daughter didn't do the mistake, she will say, hey, put the food properly. This is not how you do it. You need to do it this way. So by seeing that, the daughter-in-law will get the idea. You see? So similarly, the Lord teaches the world by teaching the devotee. So this is the way the Lord teaches us. So in other words, these are all drama. This is all a drama. So the Lord, He cannot do a drama all on His own. So, and He can actually, if He wants to, He can. But then He likes to involve His pure devotees with Him. And the pure devotees are fully surrendered to Him. And when they are fully surrendered to the Lord puts them in these kinds of drama, where by learning about how did they react to this kind of problems, how did these devotees take this kind of miseries, how did they actually pacify themselves, how did they actually use these problems and miseries as a stepping stone to go higher in their spiritual life. So this is the reason that the Lord teaches all these things. By putting Himself also sometimes, like how He put Himself as Ramachandra, He showed by His own example, right? So the devotee does not have to learn anything new. No. So does that mean that the Pandavas had to go through their karma, that the Pandavas had to learn new lessons? Did Arjuna had to learn the Bhagavad Gita? Did Yudhishthira Maharaj have to learn about transcendental truth rather than just dharma? Did Kunti Devi have to learn new things about surrendering to the Supreme only? No. It's not because they have to learn. So it's because the Lord teaches the sincere devotee always from within. So He did, for a sincere devotee, the Lord will give us instructions from the heart, right? That's that Chatur-sloka verse in Bhagavad Gita, right? Ajnana jam tamaha. From the heart, He shines that beacon of light which destroys ignorance, and He reveals. Also, there's the verse Sarvasya Hridi Sarvasya Chaham Hridi Sani Vish. What's the verse? Say it loudly. 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 Okay, never mind. All right. So anyway, Janvi forgot. I also forgot. So the point is, it comes from the heart. The Lord reveals this knowledge from the heart. So whenever there is a show, therefore a show is made to teach the devotee, it is for teaching the less intelligent people. So therefore we have to learn from example. So what is our duty then? When we see all these things, do we say, oh, if we see another devotee going through pain, do we come to the devotee and say, you're going through karma? No. Actually, the devotee, once you take up the devotional service of the Lord, even if you are not Uttama Adhikari, even if you are simply Kanishta Adhikari, that means you are just beginning to take up pure devotional service. You are no longer suffering the reacts of your karma. That means from the beginning of initiation, you are no longer actually suffering from karma. Whatever that you are suffering is directly from the purview of the Lord. That means it's His will alone. And He's doing this to you, to us, to all of us, so that we can learn lessons. Number one, because we are not purified yet, we have many anarthas in our heart. So by these lessons, we can quickly learn them. And number two, we can use this as stepping stones to upgrade to boost our devotion, to bring our devotion closer, to make a positive advancement. Sometimes I can share with you, I wouldn't have started chanting 16 rounds unless I had a big fight with my wife. So it was once we had, in the beginning of our marriage, we had a huge fight throughout the night, and it was like a whole night. And then the next day we decided, okay, I think we are trying to, let's bring ourselves further into spiritual life. We have problems, we have difficulties, yes, but let's take it positively. So like that. But if we are intelligent, we won't wait until we get this kind of problems. So that's the intelligent person. An intelligent person will learn from scripture and immediately make willful choices towards the Lord without waiting for a tribulation. But because we are not so intelligent, especially me, so therefore I have to go through these various kinds of problems. So, but this is where we have to take guidance of association. We have to take guidance of scripture, and we have to learn how we can transform. This is the real positivity, not the mundane positivity, when people blindly become, oh, let's be positive. People are dying, everything is happening, but let's be positive. That is blind positivity. It is called putting the head under the hole. When the lion is coming, the ostrich digs a hole in the ground and plants his head inside. Oh, I don't want to see, I don't want to see. So he thinks this is ignorance. But that is not true positivity. True positivity is learning from scripture, how to take everything into devotional service. So Prabhupada says here, a devotee's duty, therefore, is to ungrudgingly accept. We have to accept tribulations from the Lord as benedictions. And always remember, the Lord never gives us tribulations which we cannot handle. If somebody is going through a difficult tribulation, they can handle it. They just need to dig deep into their sadhana and into their hearing, bhajana kriya, and take shelter of Guru. So just like Bhīṣmadeva, right? He's telling, from the brahmanas, from the devotees, and also from the Supreme Lord. So a pure devotee of the Lord accepts tribulations. In fact, he goes further. He doesn't just sees this as the Lord is doing this to teach me. He sees this as a pure devotee of the Lord accepts tribulation as favors from the Lord. Now, in order for us to bring us to this level, it's definitely very advanced thinking. And many devotees sometimes think this way, that, oh, this is actually a favor of the Lord. You can see how Narada Muni actually saw it that way. This is all a favor of the Lord when his mother died, and he just moved. So we have to teach ourselves. We should not say, oh, I am not there. Yes, we are not there, but then we should learn to take examples from these pastimes and to take solace. So this is the role of scripture also. It gives you solace when we go through this kind of tribulations. We can try to soothe the heart by taking this kind of steps. So Srila Prabhupada further says, the Lord says, I put my devotee into difficulty, and thus the devotee becomes more purified in exchanging transcendental bhava with me. So, just like Kunti Devi prays, please give me more misery, please give me more misery. So this is exactly the prayer of Kunti Devi. She is now gone to that level that she is like saying, I'm so accustomed to always crying out to you, O Lord, because of all my troubles. Now I've suddenly become addicted to crying out to you. That is what Kunti Devi is saying. I have become addicted to crying out to you. So all these difficulties have brought me to this level. So now please give me more miseries and more suffering so that I can always think of you. So that was Kunti Devi's praying. So we can all pray that we eventually come to this platform. right? Thus the Lord snatches the fallen soul from the mire of material existence. So it's not that everyone has to go through this, right? The Lord has 1001 ways times 10 to the power of 1001, different ways of how he snatches devotees from the mire of material existence. Sometimes, like the Kumaras, the 4 Kumaras just had to smell tulsi leaf fragrance and they became devotees immediately. And Sukadev Goswami simply had to hear Bhagavatam and he became devotee, just like that. And then some devotees have, like Dhruva Maharaj, he had to have a bit of material desire, so like that. And then he came into association of Narada Muni and he faithfully took up the order of Narada Muni. So Bhajana Kriya, so from Sadhu Sangha to Bhajana Kriya, and then he became devotee. Narada Muni also the same. So and so it's not necessary that it's only through tribulation. So don't feel so bad. Don't feel like, oh, I don't want to become a devotee of the Lord because I'm scared of tribulations. No. So the Lord knows. He already knows that this is your karma. This is our karma at the time of birth. And he knows, okay, so he adjusts this karma. He squeezes all the karma out and he only gives us what's absolutely necessary for us to finish off our entire lifetime in this life, so that we don't have to go through different lifetimes. So if it's now up to us, the ball is in our court. So according to, if we are faithful, if we learn scripture nicely and understand the correct understanding, and if we associate with the sadhus, and if we follow faithfully the Bhajana Kriya process, faithfully mind us, then we can learn from all this. Otherwise, we will have to go through tribulation after tribulation after tribulation. If we don't learn the lessons, because we are not Nitya Siddhas yet. When we become Nitya Siddhas, that means we are eternally liberated. Then we don't feel the tribulation. Just like how Bhīṣmadeva, in the presence of Kṛṣṇa, he didn't feel the pain of the 1,000 arrows which was piercing him. But we are different. We still feel the pain. So we use this pain to bring us closer to Kṛṣṇa. So if we don't learn, then we have to face more and more pain. So this is what we have to do each time. Whenever we go through suffering, misery, we have to teach ourselves to scrutinize very carefully, what is this that Kṛṣṇa is trying to teach us? What is it that Sunny Deva is trying to teach us? What is it that the Navagrahas in the purview of Kṛṣṇa is trying to teach us, so that we can become better devotees? So this is what we have to learn. Right. So you are now appointed. So after saying all this and understanding all this, Bhīṣmadeva is telling Yudhishthira Maharaj, you are now the appointed administrative head, and my lord, you should now take care of those subjects who are now rendered helpless. So he's instructing. So now begins the entire instruction of Bhīṣmadeva. So to this verse, Srila Prabhupada says in his purport, even the most pious has to suffer the condition of material nature. So we cannot say we are not going to suffer. We are going to suffer in this material world. So that understanding needs to be there. Otherwise, we will never take up devotional service seriously. If we always think that there is somewhere we will not suffer, we will escape from it, no, we must be ready for it, because that's the nature. Dukkhalayam ashashvatam. It's just that some suffer more, some suffer less according to our situation. But a pious man is faithful to the Lord. See? For he is guided by the bona fide Brahmana and Vaishnava. So this is the reason we take up Guru. The Guru will teach us to accept tribulations nicely, following the religious principles. So at never is there a time a devotee will leave the religious principles. He will always follow them. These three guiding principles of Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu should be the aim of life. One should not be disturbed by the tricks of eternal time. So eternal time is there to put us into ups and downs of life. So one should not be disturbed. It's like going through a roller coaster. So when the roller coaster goes up, we should still be chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And when the roller coaster goes down, we suddenly shouldn't screech like a banshee. We should still continue chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So this is what we should teach ourselves. Very important. So assembly at Bhīṣmadev's deathbed. So this is what happens. Now we have covered the topics. So this topic of chapter 9, it's basically the assembly which we talked about, how Bhīṣmadev pacifies the Pandavas, which we already have talked about, and Bhīṣmadev's prayers to Kṛṣṇa. So before Bhīṣmadev starts to give his instruction to the Pandavas and to all the millions of assembled sages, he first prays to Kṛṣṇa. So this is what we are covering here, right? Esha vai Bhagavan Sakshad. This Sri Kṛṣṇa is no other than the inconceivable original personality of Godhead. He is Adyo Narayana Puman. He is the original Narayana. He is Bhagavan Sakshad. This Sri Kṛṣṇa who is standing in front of me. So in this form. So Bhīṣmadev is establishing this. He is the first Narayana, the supreme enjoyer. So, and are you not, and similarly, this verse is very important for us to defeat, not to defeat, to tell ourselves, you know, sometimes it's very common in Hinduism where people will say Kṛṣṇa is an avatar of Vishnu. So here it's clearly said otherwise. In many places lah. Again, I would like to quote another verse. Bhagavatam, 10th canto. Brahma is praying after the Brahma Vimohana Leela. He's praying. Are you not the original Narayana? Narayana Stvam Nahi. O Supreme Controller, Sarvadehinam. Since you are the soul of every embodied being and the eternal witness of all created realms, Loka Sakshi. Indeed, Lord Narayana is your expansion. This is the $1 million verse. Lord Narayana is your expansion. Narayano Angam. So this is clear. We can quote this verse to all the any other persons who says, you know, Vishnu is actually the origin. So anyway, that's a bit of digression. So let's go back to the topic. He is the soul of the universe. He is the Loka Sakshi and everything. But he is moving amongst the descendants of King Vrishni, just like one of us. Now, you know, this is an echo of Kunti Devi's prayers. Kunti Devi also echoed a similar statement. She said that you are also that the Supreme Lord, he is acting amongst us like players. He's just doing a drama with all of us. So now Bhīṣmadev is repeating the same point again. But Bhīṣmadev continues to say, Shiva, Narada, there are those who know you. Very confidentially, they know you for who you actually are. And these people are Shiva, Narada, Kapila. So like that, he gives examples. Not everyone knows you, but the confidential, the Guyam Tamam devotees, they know you. So out of ignorance only, right, Kṛṣṇa is known to be as a maternal cousin to Arjuna, a dear friend or a well-wisher or a counselor or a messenger or a benefactor. So this is all only due to ignorance. Actually, the confidential devotees know the actual position of the Lord. But even these confidential devotees at a higher level, like how Kunti Devi prayed, you know, she said, Mother Yashoda, it was not out of ignorance that she didn't know you. So that was beyond ignorance. That is Yogamaya. So very, very confidential devotees, they transcend even Narada, Shiva and Kapila, such as the gopis, such as the very close devotees of Vrindavan. So Srila Prabhupada gives the purport here. The authorities speak. Sometimes, you know, he's trying to establish the importance of authority. So that's why Kṛṣṇa actually set up this entire drama to show how Bhīṣma is such an authority in the material world. You know, we become very impressed. You know, sometimes they say, oh, he has a master's in IIT and then he has done a he's a Google chairman or whatever it is. So if he speaks, oh, we all must listen. So, sometimes we get impressed with material, what do you call, qualifications. So Srila Prabhupada says, the authorities speak and the people in general believe them. But in the case of Vedic truths, they have been taught not to believe. So this is the sad problem of many Indians. They don't, because, systematically in their schooling, that's why Prabhupada sometimes says, schooling life is like the slaughterhouse, where they are systematically taught to doubt scripture and to believe science. Even if they accept them, they give a different interpretation. So these are the problems. South India is full of these kind of people. They interpret all kinds of rubbish, saying that Ravana is the hero and Ram is the villain. And they actually give an award for people who speak like this. Each and every man wants a direct perception of Vedic knowledge. Show me God, they all will say. But foolishly they deny it. It's just like Duryodhana. He could not accept when Kṛṣṇa showed his Vishvarupa. This means that the misguided man can believe one authority, the scientist, but will reject the authority of the Vedas. The result, and we can see, is this good? We can see the result is only degeneration, degradation. This is what it shows. So authority is not dogmatic as ill-conceived. So this is also for us to learn. It's not that if somebody is placed on top of us as an authority, oh no, we want freedom. We want our own, we are all equal. We are all prabhus. No. We are supposed to be taught to be dasa nudas, servant of the servant. So we have to understand that authority, the Vedic authority, is not dogmatic, as ill-conceived by less intelligent persons. So we have to accept this. So when we say we want to surrender to Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa says, first you surrender to the Vedas. First you surrender to the instruction of the Vedas. Can you accept the instruction of Vedas? Or are you going to rebel against it and say that this is dogmatic? Then Kṛṣṇa will say, first you learn to surrender to your guru. So like that, there are different levels. Then, for men, we must learn to surrender to our guru. For women, we must learn to surrender to the husband. For devotees, we must learn to surrender to our authorities, devotional authorities. Like if you are, let's say if we are cooking, we must surrender to the chief cook in the temple, right? We cannot argue against the chief cook. Even if the chief cook is sometimes doing wrong things, it's not in our situation to argue with them. We should just follow and try to please them. So that is, and that has been given in so many examples. Even if mistakes are done, still, just like when Yudhishthira did a mistake and gambled away Kunti, Draupadi and his brothers and everybody, it was a mistake. It is not correct. He was put in illusion. It was a mistake. But still, we can discuss this in deeper detail at some other. Actually, it wasn't a mistake, but still, it was overall. You can see it as a mistake. So even in our perception, it looks like a mistake. So we should still learn to follow authority. This is the vow of Yudhishthira Maharaj. Yudhishthira Maharaj took this vow. He said, war is caused because of 3 reasons. One of those reasons is not accepting authority. So therefore, I vow in front of this Rajashura sacrifice that I will always accept authority and I will never go against it. So that is the reason Yudhishthira Maharaj did not cross Dhritarashtra. Duryodhana was very, very smart, was very clever. He made Dhritarashtra call Yudhishthira Maharaj to the gambling match, and he made Dhritarashtra continue to push Yudhishthira Maharaj to continue the gambling match. And it's because of that vow, Yudhishthira Maharaj did not cross. He still followed, right? But Kṛṣṇa arranged all this just to show, right, that, even in such situations, one should always try to follow authority, especially if it is ordained spiritual authority, especially if it's following Vedic injunctions. So it's not ill-conceived. And to show this example, by following this, it's not that becoming a servant or becoming somebody who is subservient. It means always you are in the wrong end of the situation. It's not like that. So Krishna himself shows, I put all these pictures here. Krishna himself shows how he is in a subordinate situation to Nanda Maharaj. How he's serving Nanda Maharaj so beautifully. He shows here Parthasarthi, how Krishna himself puts himself in a subordinate situation. Again, this is Sandipani Muni, how Krishna puts himself in a subordinate situation. Again, Mahaprabhu carrying the body of a Muslim, right, Haridas Thakur, and carrying him and bringing him everywhere. Again, he put himself in this kind of situation. And Radharani herself, who says that Radharani has to follow everything Krishna says. It's not like that. Because all these devotees are 100% surrendered. So Krishna says, first surrender, 100% surrender to the authority. And then you can expect sweetness. Sweetness will flow. So when there is 100% surrender, according to the injunctions of the Vedas, then the rivers of sweetness will open up and flow, and you will experience this sweetness as experienced by all these devotees. So Radharani was also like that. And there was one in the Rasa Leela dance. Radharani left the Rasa Leela dance and left and went. And Krishna was dancing with all the other gopis. But still, when Radharani left, Krishna was disturbed. He was like, oh no, why is Radharani leaving? And he also left that Rasa Leela dance to go looking for Radharani. So this is when we give 10% surrender, and then it will attract the sweetness of the Lord. It will attract the sweetness of our reciprocating authority. So this is sometimes, so now then one may ask, but not all the time the sweetness will be there, What happens if so there are two ways. By following authority, there are two things that can happen. Either you will get sweetness if the person is a properly qualified person, or even if the person is in the footsteps of trying to follow scripture and Krishna consciousness, or you'll get the second type. The second type is you will get miseries. In the beginning you will not feel happy. There will be tribulation, suffering, right? But still you are purified because you are following the Vedas. So whether or not so you remember in Bhagavad Gita chapter 3 Karma Yoga, we are taught to not be interested in the fruits of the action. We are only taught to be interested in the action, in the seva. So we should not be interested whether the fruit is going to be sour or sweet. So it's the nature of this material world that sometimes the fruit is sweet and sometimes the fruit is sour. But most of the time, especially in Kali Yuga, the fruit is most of the time sour. But nevertheless, we still should not give up following the injunctions of the scripture. So this is the understanding that we can have. Right. So now going back, it is 9:12. Okay. Go 8:12. So going back to this topic here, we are now talking about the prayers of Bhīṣmadeva. How Bhīṣmadeva prays and glorifies Krishna. So remember, prayers has three components. The first component is glorification. So the previous verse was also glorification. How the Krishna is the supreme Lord and everything. And now in the next verse, Bhīṣmadeva discusses the qualities of Krishna. He says, what a sweet Lord this Krishna is. These are the qualities of the Supreme Lord. He is Sarva Atmanaha. Sarva Atmanaha means he is in the heart of every atom. He is in the heart of every living entity. Therefore, he is the supreme witness. He knows everything that's happening. He is also Samadrishaha. Samadrishaha means he is equally kind to everyone. That it's not that he is more kind to one person or more kind to another person. He is kind equally. And this is how law works. Law is equal to everyone. It depends on what you do with that law. Now, you are told not to steal. But if someone steals, Right? Therefore, you know, if you steal, this will happen to you. So you are only inviting your own disaster. We are only inviting our own disaster if we cross the laws. So therefore, Krishna is samadrishaha. He is not more partial. He's not like unfair. It's not like he's saying that there is a different set of rules for you and there is a different set of rules for other people. No, the equal set of rules are given to the suras and also the asuras. It's not his problem that the asuras choose to flout his rules, whereas the suras choose to honor his rules, right? So therefore, he is samadrishaha. He is also absolute, right? He cannot make mistakes. He is everything. He's perfect, right? And he is anahankritehe. Ahankar. Ahankar means false ego. He doesn't have false ego. He is only having one ego, and that's him. So he only sees everything in unity, in one vision. There is no falseness to it. So it's very interesting that Bhīṣma is mentioning these particular qualities because I want to contrast them with our own qualities. If you remember, the jivas have 4 problems. We are having 4 disqualifications. What are those problems? If you remember, we have imperfect senses, right? So this is in contrast with sarmanaha, sarvatmanaha. Krishna is in every atom, he's in every situation, he knows everything, he sees everything. So whereas we are trying to understand knowledge from our imperfect senses. Krishna is samadrishaha, he is equal to everyone, whereas we are illusioned. Because of our illusions, we get double standards, we do double standards, we become illusioned and we are kind to our own family and we are not kind to people who are outside our family. So, you know, Prabhupada says, Vasudeva Kudumbakam. We should treat everyone equally, right? Not based on skin disease. Then, absolute Krishna is perfect, right? But we make mistakes. And Krishna, he has no false ego. So because of our false ego, we commit cheating. We have a tendency to cheat, right? Because we want to satisfy our false egos. So this is just a contrast to other qualities that we have. Therefore, because Krishna has these qualities, therefore Krishna's actions are perfect, free from material inebriety, whereas we are not, right? And he is equibalanced always. So here we say Krishna's actions are perfect. Why are they perfect? So Krishna's actions are neither superior nor inferior. They are always on the same platform. They are always absolute. So that means even when Krishna kills, Krishna can say sweet words. Krishna can also kill you. Krishna can also steal your clothes. Krishna can also steal things. Krishna can also give you things. He gave Sudama an entire kingdom. At the same time, he stole the entire kingdom away from Bali Maharaj. So Krishna can do these things, but they are all equal, absolute. They are always in the absolute platform. What do you mean absolute platform? It means that it is always beneficial. So this also we covered previously with Kunti Devi, right? How his eyes are always lotus-like eyes. So his vision, when he saw Ashwatthama, although he appeared angry, but his eyes were lotuses. He always, that anger is always for the benefit of the soul. So this is what we understand. Tatapi, but. Tatapi means but. Nevertheless, but. Ekanta bhakteshu, but yet Krishna is always very sweet to his devotees. Although he's samadrisha, yes, but you know, isn't it natural when someone follows the laws, you are more affectionate? So here, the unfairness is not due to laws, it is simply affection. Actually, Krishna is affectionate to everyone. He is just waiting, when will the time come? He knows actually. He's just waiting for you to change your inimical attitude to develop prema towards the Lord. Right? So Krishna is just waiting for that. And he's waiting to shower all his wonderful loving exchanges with you. So therefore, he is always ekanta bhakteshu. He is always loving to the devotees. He is always sold out to the devotees. And so, knowing all this, Bhīṣmadeva says, and so he has graciously come before me while I am ending my life. So Bhīṣmadeva is overwhelmed with gratitude. He's overwhelmed with feelings of gratitude and sweetness of the Lord. So therefore, he's saying this particular verse. So now he's no longer glorifying. He is humbly submitting himself. So Dainya Bodhika, this is the part of prayers where he's humbly submitting himself. Bhaktya Vesha Mano Yasmin. Out of this beautiful compassion of the Lord, Bhīṣmadeva is telling Kṛṣṇa, you force yourself, you appear in the mind, Mano Yasmin. You appear in the minds of those devotees who are about to leave their body. What is that? Tyaja Kalevaram. Kalevaram, Tyaja means to give up. Give up your Kalevaram body at the time of death. At the time of death, what happens? Because Krishna is so merciful, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he forces himself into the mind of the devotees. Now, there's a very nice story, but we won't go into that. The point is, there was a question asked by Ramanuja's disciple to Ramanuja. Ramanuja's disciple asked Ramanuja, what happens when the devotee cannot think of you? You know, there's this famous sloka spoken by the Mukunda Mala Stotra, is spoken by King Kulavekar Alvar, Kulashekar Alvar. So Kulashekar Alvar says, at the time of death, the bile, the kapha, pitta, vata, all comes and chokes me. I cannot think of you. Right? So then Ramanuja Acharya says, even if you cannot think of you, that deity, that Ranganath will force himself into your mind. So this is the beauty of the Lord. So Mano Yasmin, he will come into your mind at the time of death. How does he come into your mind, and for whom does he come into your mind? For whom? So this is where we have to carefully understand. He comes into the minds of the Bhaktya. And what is the translation of that word Bhaktya? It is devout attention. That means one who is a Ananya Bhakta, a pure devotee. And pure devotee means you are no longer in, what is pure devotee? Pure devotee doesn't mean you are like a great personality. No. Pure devotee can be just, any one of us can be pure devotee. Prabhupada once was asked, who is a pure devotee? And Prabhupada says, how many devotees of ISKCON are there? And all of these devotees are pure devotees. Why are they pure devotees? Because ISKCON devotees, or we should be, because ISKCON devotees are not interested in bhakta. It's not interested in bhakta. It's not interested in material things, in getting more and more material things. It's not interested in siddhis. It's getting name, fame, glory, power, superiority. So as long as we're not interested in bhukti, siddhi, and we are only interested in pleasing Krishna and his devotees, then you are pure devotee, devout attention. So this is only possible, right, for those devotees who have spent their lives being serious in their spiritual life. So that's why it's very important. We should use this human body to find a pure devotee, to find a guru, to take initiation, and to begin our bhajana kriya very seriously and follow the instructions in the nectar of instruction and in the nectar of devotion and in the Bhagavad Gita to carefully dovetail, prune, shape our devotion, our bhakti lata nicely so that it gives us the fruit of this bhaktya, devout attention. So this devout attention will lead to smaranam, aveshya, which is actually meditation. So how can we meditate on the Lord when we cannot have bhajana kriya, when we cannot hear from the Lord, when we cannot hear, we do not know what to meditate on. So therefore, at the time of death, if you have spent a life of devout attention, automatically there will be avesha, meditation. And these two can only come, you see here, Bhīṣmadeva specifically mentions Nama Kirtayan. Very interesting why he specifically mentions this. So the names of the holy names, the chanting of the holy names is not only for Kali Yuga. It was there even that time, right? So this was actually a very, very important point. Nama Kirtayan. So it can only arise, Bhaktya, devout attention, and Avesha, meditation, can only arise if there is Nama Kirtayan. That's why we should always chant. And that's why we need devotees. Because sometimes we are not sure whether we are we that great that we can always remember to chant even at the time of death. So we need devotees to chant for us, to remind us of the holy name. Be amongst the chanting to leave the body. That will be the wonderful. So Bhīṣmadeva got that. You see, Bhīṣmadeva at the time of death, he got the direct darshan of the Lord. He had all the devotees. Who are the devotees? You know, the likes of Narada, the likes of Sukadev Goswami, Vishwa, so many people. All of them were with him at the time of death. This is actually, Prabhupada says in his purport, that this is the actual ambition of the devotee. The devotee's ambition is to have this kind of passing. Even if this kind of passing is not available, still he should have Bhaktya, he should have Avesha, he should have Nama Kirtayan. And Narada Muni had this, even though he didn't have so many people, he had no one around, but he had this Bhaktya, Avesha, and Nama Kirtayan. So we may not be very great devotees, so therefore we need Bhaktya, we need association to give us these three things, to help us with these three things. So what will this result in? It will result in Muchyate Kama Karma Bihi. Muchyate means liberation. Kama Karma Bihi, from fruitive activities. No longer fruitive activities there will be if we perform this nicely, right? And then he continues. Now he continues with his submissions. May my Lord, Deva Devo Bhagavan, the Lord of all the Devas, he is the ultimate goal. So he's not having second thoughts. You are the ultimate goal, right? Who is Chatur Bhuja, who is capable of manifesting forearms, who is Prasanna Hasan, right? So, you know, the Lord is also known as Kamala Hasan. Kamala means lotus. Hasan means smiling, smiling beautifully like a lotus. So here Prasanna Hasan, Prasanna means cheerful. He is smiling cheerfully in front of me. This is Bhīṣmadev's desire. Aruna Lochan with beautiful eyes like the rising, reddish like the rising sun. Aruna means sun. Ulasat Mukha Ambujaha, whose face is beautifully decorated. Ulasat means to decorate, beautifully decorated. Mukha face, Ambujaha, another word for lotus. So beautifully decorated lotus face. May such a Lord kindly await me. Dhyana Pathas. So I put this transcripts here because it's very beautiful. Dhyana Pathas means, the exact translation, Prabhupada's transliteration, it means, may this Lord appear in the pathway of my meditation. Dhyana Pathas. Dhyana means meditation. Appear in the pathway of my meditation. So I thought this was very poetic. May this Lord appear in the pathway of my meditation. That means it's the goal of my meditation. Kindly await me at that moment when I quit this material body. So Bhīṣmadeva is making a request. May the Lord appear before me like this, so that I can. Bhīṣmadeva knew that Kṛṣṇa wanted him to speak. Bhīṣmadeva knew that Kṛṣṇa wanted him to give a long lecture about Dharma. We will come to that. But still, Bhīṣmadeva said, no, can I request that you please wait for me while I give this lecture? So this is his only prayer. So that is his a prayer to Krishna. So it's very beautiful. And then Maharaj Yudhishthira asked Bhīṣmadeva about the essential principles of various dharmas. So we are now coming to the part where Bhīṣmadeva's final instructions to Yudhishthira Maharaj. So we will end at this point. So just give me another 5 to 10 minutes. I will try to end it. So in this Prabhupada's purport, Lord Krishna wanted to prove that his pure devotees. So what is he trying to do? So Lord Krishna purposely made this huge assembly with all the topmost mode of goodness. Remember Satama, mode of goodness people, all the topmost devotees to come and assemble here because he wanted to glorify Bhīṣmadeva. He wanted to prove a few things. Now I'll try to point out what are those few things. Prabhupada points out in his purport. He wanted to prove that his pure devotees, although apparently living as a worldly man, is far superior to many great sages, even Vyasadeva. So that means a pure devotee is hidden. You cannot understand, just like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was living as a grihastha, a materialistic judge. He was rich, he was a judge, and he was living like a grihastha. He had 10 children, right? So, and he had so many family members. So although a devotee may live like this, he can be far superior to many great renowned sages. So, there was a time when Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was very humble. He would bow down to the lotus feet, to the feet of his guru. Bhaktivinoda Thakur had Siksha Guru and he has Diksha Guru. So his Diksha Guru wasn't a very great personality. He was one kind of one guru, I forgot his name. His Siksha Guru, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Siksha Guru is actually Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. But he was never initiated by him. So he actually got initiated by some other guru who was not really very advanced. So just to follow the etiquette that he still needed to take Diksha. So he took the Diksha, and he still followed the etiquette. He will bow down and onto the lotus feet of his guru. But that guru sometimes will take his feet and put his feet on the head of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And seeing this, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati will become very upset. And once he chastised that guru. He said, you who are a Kanishta Adhikari guru and you are sannyasi and you are putting your head on my Uttama Adhikari Paramahamsa father. So out of sometimes the devotees will speak like that because they cannot take the pain. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur was very humble. So similarly, devotees allow themselves to be put in such situations. Like, if you read the pastime of Jiva Goswami, Jiva Goswami also was like that. He couldn't tolerate that anyone comes and defeats Rupa Goswami or Sanatan Goswami. So he will argue with them and fight with them and win the argument. But it doesn't please Rupa Goswami. So, it's a very nice pastime. I won't go into that now. So sometimes they may behave like they are worldly men. So another example is Mahaprabhu's pastime. There is Gadadhar Pandit was told to go and listen and hear from a great devotee. This great devotee is, what's the name of Prahlad? That great devotee who was very materialistic looking. Pundarik Vidyanidhi. So there was a great devotee called Pundarik Vidyanidhi, and he was dressed up like a very great materialist. He sat on a beautiful divan bed, and he was surrounded with fans and peacock feathers and opulences. And when Gadadhar Pandit went to hear Bhagavatam from him, he was mentally in his mind, he thought, this cannot be a pure devotee. He's so materialistic. But knowing the mind of Gadadhar Pandit, someone in the assembly asked Pundarik Vidyanidhi to recite a particular sloka of Bhagavatam. Immediately when he recited that sloka, Pundarik Vidyanidhi was transformed into bhava, ecstasy. He was like displaying ecstatic symptoms. And when Gadadhar Pandit saw that, he realized his mistake. Oh, okay. Then he took to atone for that mistake. He accepted Pundarik Vidyanidhi as the guru of Gadadhar Pandit. So anyway, so Kṛṣṇa wanted to show like Bhīṣmadeva, he is Kshatriya, he is kingly, right? He's used to royal entourage and everything. But yet, he is speaking about dharma and duty and the highest dharma in front of even Kṛṣṇa, in front of Vyasadeva, in front of Sukadev Goswami, in front of so many other people, and everyone was, and in front of Dharmaraj himself, who was none other than Yudhishthira Maharaj. So he wanted to show that a devotee is greater than all of these people, even Vyasadeva. Kṛṣṇa wanted to show. And he wanted to prove another point. Devotees are always sound in body and mind by dint of spiritual enlightenment. And thus, in any circumstances, a devotee of the Lord is in perfect order to speak of the right way of life. Now you may think, is this the time to give a lecture? Look at this guy, he's lying on a bed of arrows. And you are asking him to give a lecture, and all of you are shamelessly sitting around him and listening also. So, but this is to show that a devotee in any situation, you can, and you can draw a parallel to Prabhupada. We all know how Prabhupada left the world. He was in the bed. He was in the last stages of his disease. And yet he was giving Bhagavatam class, and his mind was as lucid. It's very nice. I tried to remember, I tried to research and see which was that last verse. It's Bhagavatam, Canto 10. I forgot. Anyway, if I remember, I'll put it in the WhatsApp one day. So he spoke beautifully. During the last few seconds of life, he was completely lucid and completely transcendental. And he was speaking about devotion to Kṛṣṇa, how one should surrender to Kṛṣṇa. Very nice. And worship is more valuable than the worship of the Lord himself. So Kṛṣṇa wanted to prove the third point, that Kṛṣṇa likes to see, just like the father likes to see the son become more famous than himself, become more qualified than himself. He gets pleasure seeing that. So therefore, he wanted to establish clearly, look here, all of us, please understand that worship my devotee, then only you can hope to please me. So Kṛṣṇa is trying to establish that fact again, very nicely. So Bhīṣmadeva instructs. Now I will just, okay, now it's 8:30. Can I stop here and ask? I think I can finish another 10 to 15 minutes at the most. What do you think? Should I continue? Hare Krishna? Huh? Hare Krishna? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can
Yes,
hear
Prabhu.
So,
But Prabhu, I need to leave, Prabhu. So just
okay, you need to
excuse me.
leave. All right, all right, fine. So in that case, I will stop here, and we will continue Bhīṣmadeva's instruction and end in the next chapter. So thank you very much. Please forgive me for any offenses.